Warrior communities that have united their destiny with the harsh winds of the north and the struggling seas. This brave tragacanth that set off to Scandinavia from the 8th century. Only swords. From fearsome currents on the coasts of Europe to journeys into unknown lands, the Vikings are participant. It became the symbol of an era that deeply shook the medieval world for such content. Let's not forget to subscribe to the channel and like the videos for support purposes. Lindisfarne Abbey in the northeast of England in 793. It was the scene of an attack that will go down in history, raiders from the sea, known for their wealth. However, it targets this sacred building, which is almost never protected. In a short time, the monastery was engulfed in flames, and the silence in the area gave way to fear. Those who carried out this attack are the warrior community we know today as the Vikings in Scandinavia. In communities, the raid on the Lindisfarne is often referred to by historians as the beginning of the Age of Viking. Accepted as. Because after this event, Viking raids increased rapidly throughout Europe and the balances of the medieval world. These people have started to change permanently in Denmark today. The brand is from the northern lands of Norway and the language we know as Swedish. But the Vikings are a single nation or a single community. Although they share the same geography, many have different belief systems, traditions, and lifestyles. It consisted of many groups. From time to time there were conflicts of interest, even from the same origin. These communities were afraid to fight each other because the word Viking is often used today. It is associated with looting and destruction, but in reality, most of the Vikings make a living from maritime trade. It was establishing commercial relations in distant geographies, and some of them were not sailing the seas at all. He continues his life by farming on his own land without opening. Not every region of Scandinavia was suitable for agriculture, especially as you moved north. The harsh climatic conditions made the soil infertile and made planting almost impossible. On the other hand, southern Denmark and some regions of Norway and Sweden are more suitable for agriculture. However, the increase in population alone left agriculture insufficient. This difficult geographical management made additional means of livelihood such as fishing necessary. Its dense forests and many island lands take on a fragmented structure. Dressed. Therefore, it was not easy for kings to establish a central and definitive dominance under these conditions. The administration was often kept alive by relations of interest, alliances and, when necessary, by the use of force. In some regions rich in natural resources, political and military power is in certain hands over time. It began to gather in the future, although in the 9th century Scandinavia largely legends. It is a period shaped by mothers and oral narratives, so historians have precise data. The information he can speak is quite limited. However, in the Viking Age, the national borders we know today still exist. People find shelter and livelihood to sustain their lives, not according to political maps. In this period, Norway arranged many lands independent of each other. It has a fragmented structure, with many small kingdoms in constant conflict. The region has long lacked a common authority. Hockey entered the stage of history on this date until about 872. According to the stories, Harald strengthened his power step by step over the years. Finally, he established his superiority by defeating rival kings in a great clash that took place in a light yogurt. After this victory, he vigorously declared that he had gathered the Norwegian lands under a single administration, to be called the first king of Norway. When it comes to Denmark, the picture is much more complicated. The name Denmark was not used explicitly until the beginning of the 10th century. Despite this, records from the Frankish Empire show that the leaders who ruled in the region had considerable power, and that Danish warriors were among the most influential military elements of their time. For Sweden, the information available to historians is much more limited than the available data. According to the population, they lived mainly around the Baltic Sea and had intense contact with the surrounding communities. As in other Scandinavian lands, the political structure in this region is independent of each other. Organized in the form of kingdoms, the Swedish origin Vikings are Sami living in the north. He was in regular contact with their community. These encounters were not only commercial or cultural, but also the emergence of some beliefs and rituals from these interactions. It is also possible that Scandinavia's own internal history is largely uncertain. The people who came out of these lands left deep traces in the rest of Europe. During the 9th century, the Vikings took to the riverlines that ran along the coasts of Western Europe and inland. Successive attacks. But with the strengthening of defenses on Frankish territory, the Vikings turned to new targets. This time their route was the British Isles. British territory was the last for the Vikings. An extremely attractive target were monasteries with great wealth and inadequate defensive lines. Especially the fighters of Danish origin are directed to this region. Forces that went down in history as the great pagan army landed on the island and soon conquered many Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. He suffered a heavy defeat in his health during this time. Norwegian Vikings north and west of Scotland. It crossed its coasts and reached Ireland, where the coastal settlements were subjected to intense attacks. The real reasons behind the Viking raids are still a matter of debate today. Limited agricultural areas, increasing population pressure and the idea of gaining honor and fame triggered these expeditions. Among the factors shown is the large pagan army over time only looting. But it is a direction to establish permanent dominance by ceasing to be a power that does. The captured lands became an area of administration called Dani Love. The Vikings established control over the islands in northern Britain by establishing settlements such as Dublin and Cork. He turned them into important trade centers and slave markets in the same period. It is an island with no human settlement in the north. Iceland was founded in 874 by Ingolfur Arnason, one of the Viking leaders. The settlement process laid the foundations of today's rivalry, as there were no indigenous people on the island. The process proceeded largely without conflict. The Vikings were not satisfied with this. They also settled in Faroe and their islands. However, the exact time of these migrations is not historically clear. The Vikings' expansion was not limited to the west, but especially to the east. Vikings, generally of Swedish origin, made their way south, following major river lines. Trade and raids along this route brought them as far as the Black Sea, thus leading them to the Byzantine Empire. It allowed them to establish contact with the rich world of Viking influence in Eastern Europe. Although its scope is still a matter of debate today, the political balances of these communities in the region are also a matter of debate. Historians generally agree that it played an influential role. Vikings. It created deep and lasting changes in the lands where they settled: York, Dublin, and Kiev. Cities like Kyiv have grown over time and become key points in Europe's trade moment. However, the harshest and most shocking aspect of these encounters was the conflicts over beliefs. The religious world of the Vikings is polytheistic and complex with a good structure. Har Viking does not worship the same gods. Beliefs differ from region to region. At the center of their lives is the understanding of destiny, which is believed to be woven by norms. If a warrior is destined to die on the battlefield, it is inevitable and this end must be met with him. It was thought that Christianity should spread in Scandinavia over the centuries. However, success is right for a long time. Some Viking leaders accepted Christianity for political gain. One of the most well-known examples of this is Roland. In 911, the lands of Normandy. In return, he must stop other Viking raids and be baptized. The political balance in Norway has once again been shaken after the death of the Blessed Beautiful Weed. Authority has weakened and the kingdom has become fragmented again. The throne is briefly in the hands of his son Eric Bladex. However, his power is long-lasting. After him, his brother Hakar took over the good management. Falcon aimed to spread the Christian faith to the country, but this initiative is tied to traditional beliefs. He faced a harsh reaction from the people who were affiliated, so he could continue his Hakoni rule. He has to turn to the Norse gods again. During this period, Denmark is still politically fragmented. Gord Ion reigns over a kingdom centered on Cortland. After the death of Ormond, power passed into the hands of Harald Bluetooth, the son of Errol Rival. He managed to gather the Danish lands under a single administration by eliminating the powers and Christianity. At the state level, it is me. The year 960 is decisive in U-transformation. His defeat at the hands of the Holy Roman Emperor Otto was an important factor that accelerated the acceptance of Christianity. It is considered a turning point for the power of free Bluetooth-owned son. Terminated by. The years of judgment still hold many uncertainties for historians. Despite this, there is a known fact. England was repeatedly subjected to Viking attacks during his period, and at the end of these expeditions, Sweyn. In 1013, he seized the throne of England, but this victory did not last long. Die after only 1 year. Sweyn then took the stage with his son. The residents soon united England, Denmark and Norway under a single administration, making history the North. He established a strong political structure that passed as the North Sea Empire Nu 1035. After his death in 35, the North Sea Empire quickly disintegrated. The joint administration collapsed and the political power of the Viking world began to weaken. The last act of this process is in 1066. King Harald Hardrada of Norway landed in North Hamburg, asserting his claim to the throne of England. However, this attempt was the last for him. He lost his life on the battlefield. This event is considered by many historians as the end of the Viking Age. From this point on, the Scandinavian kingdoms became an integral part of the Christian world. Great plundering expeditions unique to ancient times are history. The legacy left by the banner Vikings was much deeper than the surface of the Scandinavian culture. Spread the species to a wide geography from Faroe Islands to Iceland and Greenland. Europe's language, trade routes and political structure are permanent. He had failed in England, but not long after, another bloodline of Viking origin. Why did Roland appear on the stage of history again after a short time? William the Conqueror, one of his grandchildren. Then he would conquer England and the Viking legacy would continue to rule, this time with a different face. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel and like videos for support for such content.